ones who dare to dream. We won't let anyone hold us back. We'll take the road, let's travel by and build our empire piece by piece. We've got our dreams and we've got a plan. We're not afraid to take a stand. We'll face the risks and embrace the fear, cause we know that success is near. There will be times when we'll fall down, but we'll get up and turn it around. We're entrepreneurs, we're not afraid to lose. We'll keep moving forward, we got nothing to prove.
Well, welcome to episode 555 of The Entrepreneur's Journey, modeled after Joseph Campbell's The Hero's Journey, because we're all heroes of our own journey. We're all part of our own story. We are the antagonist, the protagonist, the hero, the villain. Whatever Jungian persona we choose to be, we are the most important people in the world, in our world. In fact, let me tell you, I always try and find a quote. And I quote myself, which is, I know the first sign of narcissism, but this one takes me, it pushes me over the edge. The quote is, I look handsome, I look smart, I'm a walking work of art, such a dazzling coat of many colors. How I love my coat of many colors. This actually is not me. But it is a Joseph. It's Joseph and his amazing technicolored coat. And it was inspired by my guest, Jill Young, who asked the question. In fact, we were looking, I call it Youngisms, because they're isms that come from Jill Young. They make her feel young, me feel young. They make everyone feel young. And one of them was this idea of, do you amaze yourself? Hence, I look dazzling, I look smart, I'm a walking work of art. I do. Sometimes I amaze myself. Sometimes I surprise myself. Sometimes, well, if I said I delight myself, it might start getting a little bit weird. But I do. And just to be open and honest, because that's a big part of EOS. It's often when I've had maybe a cocktail, I become a lot more awestruck and wondrous about my surroundings. And sometimes I say things in a coaching session or in a presentation, and I get out of my body and I think to myself, that was actually quite interesting. That actually was quite amazing. I hope I don't forget it. I hope I write it down. Well, I'll tell you, one thing I did write down was my why statement. As a teacher, facilitator, and coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership teams get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever change. And a huge part of this journey for me has been the entrepreneurial operating system, of which Jill Young is the head coach. So I'm not nervous at all. I don't feel judged at all. I'm not insecure at all, knowing that the head coach is sitting in the greenish room. Is it bluish or greenish room? She literally took the green room brief to heart. If you want to know more about EOS, if you want to know if you're running your business or if your business is running you, P.S., that's not good. You don't want your business to run you. You want to run your business. You can go ahead and use either of those QR codes to get started on your journey. But now, forget about my journey. Let's talk about Jill Young's journey. I've been going to AI and portraying my guest. And Jill, this is what AI came up with for you. This is how AI sees you. And the real brief was, to me, Jill she is the embodiment of energy, of human energy. We talk about a system for harnessing human energy, but she has figured out a means to be energy, to control energy, to exude energy, and to be able to share energy, to replenish energy, as opposed to deplete that energy. Jill Young, an entrepreneur, speaker, expert, EOS implementer, and head coach at EOS Worldwide, specializing in guiding business owners to create vision, experience traction, and form unified teams. From an early age, Jill learned the advantages of having a clear vision and doing what you say you'll do. After earning a BS in psychology and an MBA, Jill held leadership positions in the industries of HR, for-profit education, and professional training. As an EOS implementer since 2014, she's an OG. Jill has had the honor of implementing EOS in over 1,000 sessions and continues to coach awesome entrepreneurs who are on a journey to become their best. In her role as head coach, She's responsible for ensuring all EOS implementers deliver quality EOS implementation to their clients. Jill is the author of 3 books: The Earning Advantage, which teaches employees of entrepreneurial companies that they must provide more value in order to get paid more; The Courage Advantage, which teaches entrepreneurs new mindsets that enable them to thrive by working in courage rather than fear; and The Thinking Advantage, designed to empower entrepreneurial leaders to teach their teams to think deeper, more creatively, and more effectively for the good of the company, and indeed, I would say, the good of the world. Jill Young, welcome to the show.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. I was backstage. You had me laughing. You had me, I almost cried.
Yeah.
It was so much fun. You delight me, Joseph. You delight me.
Well,
This is awesome.
I appreciate that, and I appreciate you, but I was looking and realizing that your room actually is green, is it not?
Well, you know what?
Greenish.
I love this color. I painted it in my session room, and I thought I want it at home too. And I've just noticed that it is a chameleon. In different light, in different sunlight, it'll look green, deeper blue. So it's kind of like it's like a robin egg blue today. But that's what it looks like to me. But yes,
Well,
we can call it a green room. That's fine.
From Robin Eggs to Robin Hood, that's another persona of, the concept of stealing from the rich to give to the poor. It's one way that I even think about small business and small business owners, leveling the playing fields, being able to create unfair and competitive advantage for growing companies. So there you go, from Robin Eggs to Robin Hoods.
There we go. There we go. There we go.
So,
well,
so what do you
see what we're gonna come up with today? That is amazing.
Do you like that? I mean,
yeah. Especially because I think she has less wrinkles than I do. So
she's also not real. So I suppose based on AI, we don't want artificial intelligence. We just want real humanity and real intelligence.
There we
go. Jill, I couldn't help but notice, as an OG, over 1,000 session days completed. Now, I saw Gino Wickman, the founder of EOS, who wrote a post after he completed 2,000 session days. So I'm just going to my curiosity is getting the better of me. What have you learned after 1,000 session days from doing this, from rinsing and repeating?
So, oh my goodness. So I've both learned everything and nothing. It's just really, really interesting to look back on the journey, look back and reflect and think back to those first session days, the first year, and realize that I thought I knew it all. And the more sessions I do, the more I realize I don't know anything. And I hope that's not scary to anybody listening, because I am head coach and you're like, she doesn't know anything. But it's more of a concept of never walking into the same session room twice. I've had teams that have been with me for 8 years, but I've learned that every single day is new. Every human being walking into the session room, they're new. That if I make assumptions that I know what's going on today, those are the days where we don't have as good of a session, or I don't listen with as much curiosity or intent. And this happens in the life of an implementer, where we have those times where we think we know everything, and sometimes we have to have a crisis to pull us out of it. But I've both learned everything and that I know nothing.
You sound a lot like Rob Dubé right now. When Rob was on my other show and I said, "Who are you?" He said, "I'm everything and I am nothing. I'm both living and dying at the same time." So, what do we say? From juju to woo-woo? Like there's a lot of woo-woo in this. Beautiful woo-woo and juju, I might add.
There's a lot of woo-woo, because at the core of what we do as EOS implementers is we're listening to, and we're providing an energetic space for people to just come back to their own minds and their own thoughts, their own hearts. It's so, of course, there's going to be a lot of woo woo in there. And, I just describe woo woo as like, we don't really know what's going on. It's kind of indescribable. There's not really a formula that you can put to it, but we have amazing business tools that are so simple, but all they really do is they just provide for a structured conversation. So we're asking the curious questions, and then just ask the curious questions and let the humans unfold in front of you. It's really, really fascinating. It's really fascinating to get to witness humans unfolding as they're going through the EOS process.
I want to get into the coaching component in a short while, but if ever, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, if ever I've met someone that oozes eulogy virtues as opposed to resume virtues, it's you. Watching you as a new implementer, a new coach myself on stage, but also just in getting to know you a little bit ahead of you coming on the entrepreneur's journey. You have such an amazing life story. Forget about your entrepreneurial journey, but I'm going to ask you nonetheless to tell us a little bit about your journey, your entrepreneurial journey that has led you to this moment.
I'm happy to share. I feel my entrepreneurial journey, I always start it with childhood, which we find in the hero's journey. A lot of those stories start in childhood, but mine absolutely was awakened and called to action, called to go on my journey when I was just a little girl. So I was raised in an entrepreneurial family. And I hear lots of entrepreneurs say this. So this is kind of cool that there's maybe this common thread. But the way I viewed my family business is it was our way of life. And I loved it. I loved it. There are different ways I could tell this story. I spent time alone. I was the youngest by 10 years in my family. So, the oops baby. But I feel like I had this beautiful cocoon or nest in which to test things out, try an idea. When I was 14, Joseph, you and I know this as core focus. But when I was 14, I developed a purpose, cause, and passion for our family business. I didn't even know it, but I was passionate about it, and I dug in deep, and I'm like, this is what we're really doing here in these businesses. And like, bless my mom and dad's heart, and my sister and my brother, they all worked in the business. They're like, okay, you can slap that on a t-shirt. They didn't overthink things. When I was 16, I was signing payroll checks, and dad was teaching me how to pay bills. And it was just fascinating to me. So it was just a really rich environment for me to dabble. And therefore, I feel like there's a trait I've pulled through all of my experiences of, I just don't really know what it feels like to feel the feeling of, oh, this is a really risky decision. Because I was in this cocoon where I just would throw out ideas and just start doing something. And I think my parents probably thought it was adorable and just kind of let me go. Now, of course, at some point in life, we got to learn that not every idea is a good idea, and we got to have some failures. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I want to interrupt for a second and just ask you the question, which is, what is your definition of risk?
I don't know. Like, if you're really asking me to embody it,
And
you know what? I am not a woman who is often stumped or is reaching for words, but a definition of risk.
Well, I'll prompt for a little bit. I'll prompt a little bit. And I remember, I come from the marketing and advertising world. Bill Bernbach once said, safe advertising is the riskiest advertising of all. Peter Drucker said, defending the past is far riskier than creating the future. So, what I hear from you is this idea of it was just natural. It was a way of life.
Yes.
How does that inform the decisions you make and the risks you take?
So now I've got something good for you. Now I'm going to connect two things that now I'm like, oh, this is why, Joseph, this is why I love you, because you asked such great questions. And now I'm learning stuff about myself right here in this moment. When you asked me the definition of risk, and I really couldn't even put something on it, it's because I believe one of my, what you would call the eulogy values, thank you for that, that concept. One of my eulogy values is experimenting. Now, in experimenting, you never fail. You don't fail an experiment. An experiment is just, I wonder what will happen if. And there is no, this was successful or unsuccessful. So I experiment often. So when I look at something and I'm experiment with it and it's not getting the results I'm wanting, it's just, well, we just got to do another experiment. So I'm wondering if my lack of definition of risk is just overshadowed by I love to experiment.
I love that. I mean, in other words, there's the reframe of that becomes, or frame of that becomes, when there is nothing to lose and everything to gain, how can you lose? And of course, loss can be interpreted as failure, or however we talk about it, as opposed to this idea of the learnings, and the best practices that come from, hey, if it doesn't succeed, try again.
Yeah, we just haven't found the way that it works best yet. And it's exciting. It's very exciting. If I were to live in some kind of utopia, perfect world, that just I think that would, well, I probably, if I found it, I would want to experiment with something else, because just the change and the curiosity, putting two and two together. Part of my entrepreneurial journey is I've had space in my life to really do deep thinking. Even as a child, I was very social, but I also really enjoyed my alone time. And I just spent a lot of time up here in imagination, in contemplating. I would read textbooks for fun. I would go to the library and check out textbooks on really interesting topics and just read deeper and connect dots, and then just really go on rabbit trails with that. But I had a lot of time to do that. And I think that's something that I crave and I love and I use as a tool now. Is I use plan and create plenty of space in my life to think and feel and contemplate and reflect. That's a big part of it, is reflecting.
Now, there's a tool called a clarity break,
Mm-hmm.
and God knows I need to take more of them. I think that alludes to this idea of space and taking space, breathing, reflecting, introspecting, maybe even giving credit for all the times you've amazed yourself.
Yes, that's right. I also love my clarity breaks. What I found works best for me is very unstructured clarity breaks. And as I remember when I first learned this tool from Gino 10 or more years ago, it really was take a blank legal pad, go somewhere where you're not going to be distracted, and just sit still, think. Just whatever's coming to your head, write it down. It was as simple as that. And over the years, lots of people have said, oh, this works best for me. You should always ask yourself these 3 questions in a clarity break. And people are sharing their best practices for clarity breaks on how they individually create space. And sometimes I sense that the magic has been sometimes taken out of clarity breaks, especially when I hear people say things like, Joseph, like I should take more clarity breaks. They're like a bath for your soul. These, when done your own style, you crave them, you create the space. There isn't this should around it. So if anybody's feeling that they should take more clarity breaks, just ask yourself if you've found what really, really works for you. And don't you can take suggestions from people, but run it through your own filter. Like, how are you going to take your own clarity break? Make it your own. Make it your own. And then I love them, because I don't feel like I should do it like you, or I should do it like Gino, or I should do it like anyone else. It's a very personal space creation thing.
Jill Young, you are my clarity break. I feel like I'm having one right now.
That does happen. That's what coaching is too. You find clarity moments when you're in a coaching container. So clarity breaks, sometimes you coach yourself.
Oh, I love that. I'm actually tonight giving a presentation to students at the University of New Haven. And the whole presentation is basically talking about my life and my career. And I chose to basically talk about all the 10 the 10 moments of my career, most of which are luck or bad luck or all these things that I had no control over. For example, the first one is called chickenpox, where I got chickenpox in my sophomore at college that ended up changing my entire life and career from computer science to marketing. But the 10th one, Jill, is I just called it, just question marks, as in, I don't know what the next one is going to be. My life and my career and my journey is still unfolding. I'm not done yet. In fact, my best days are ahead of me. And that's what I'll share with them, which is the only clarity is in recognizing how out of control we are, and how much is yet to come.
Yeah, and how exciting is that? That's exciting.
And scary.
Maybe that's the part that it's just exciting. Like, scary, I guess it could be scary if we looked at it that way, but I like to look at it as exciting. It's more exciting to me.
Where do you think you are on your own unique journey, on your own hero's journey or entrepreneurial journey?
There's different parts of my life that are on different phases of the journey, which is really fun to really geek out around models like that, like Joseph Campbell's entrepreneur, or the hero's journey. Models are beautiful for our brain because we can see things. We can get out of our own head and we can see it, and we can go, oh, that makes sense now. I remember when I was in this valley of despair. Oh, I remember when I was called to go on an adventure I didn't think I was qualified for. And we can look at it and really get some really great perspective. The limitation of a model is when we try to label ourselves and think about ourselves as just one. I'm right here. Well, I am a multifaceted person. I'm on a journey with my middle son right now, who has been going through some addictions and some treatment and all of that. And I feel like we're on this uphill right here. I'm also on a journey with my younger son, and he's headed off to college. And so he's feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm just starting to realize how hard this journey is going to be. For myself, I had gallbladder surgery last week. So I spent a lot of time reflecting and thinking, there were moments where I'm like, wow, did I not make good choices? In that moment of like, can I come back from this? Just a few of those little moments. So I just feel like I'm all over, and I think we probably all are. We're all over that entrepreneurial journey. And it's just going to start over. If you ever do get to the end of it, you just know it's going to start over.
It's something that I'm hearing it again and again and again, whether it was talking to Rob, whether it was talking to Alex Freitag, whether it's talking to you. There is this incredible sense of letting go and loving. It's almost letting go and loving the journey, and swimming in that uncertainty, and embracing it. And I'm just, it's not coincidental. It's just too, and you can see even in me, I can see it in myself, even talking to you, how I'm trying to understand and label. That's my Colby, which is, we all do this thing called a Colby, right? Which is to determine our personality type, right? Which is, I'm a 3385. What are you, Jill?
I'm close. 4492.
4492. So you're, you err on the visionary side or the quick start. So does Alex. So does myself. My 5 implementer, I'm just constantly getting into my own head and getting almost lost in my own head, trying to understand the model. And what I hear the head coach saying to me is, Joe, stop trying to understand the model. Recognize there are many models and they are forever and constantly changing. That's the model. The model is there is no model.
There we go. And they're very useful, and they help us gain a new perspective. Joseph, part of your personal core focus is to get teams unstuck. I just love that word, unstuck. And the models are beautiful for just getting people unstuck. They don't need to, models don't need to give us every single answer. They don't need to explain everything. What I found, I use a lot of models in my teaching. I call them approaches because I teach an approach, an algorithm, and an activator. It's a fun little alliteration that I do in some workshops. And these approaches or mindsets or models, whatever we want to call them, they just create this spark of shaking you up a little bit. And then what I found is the human, they know how to do the rest. So sometimes the coach, Joseph, you're doing this beautiful podcast to highlight the hero's journey. People are listening. They might go, oh, one thing you say, a way I make a twist on a quote, later today might just get somebody unstuck. But that's all we have to do for people. We don't have to take them all the way through the finish line. Then, that's really overbearing as a coach. It's like, okay, and now you got to do this and you got to do that. We don't do that. The tools of EOS, all these other beautiful model books we read, if they can just get us unstuck, oh my gosh, our human spirits know what to do next. But to, have a really great model to help you do that and identify it. Sometimes it actually really useful.
The whole concept of getting unstuck actually came from March 2020, when people were quite literally stuck at home, but also stuck in general. And of course, we could look at it today as stuck in their ways, or stuck in terms of whether it's paralyzed with fear or debilitated with feeling that life, that chances, that choices, that options are limited. So it means a lot to me, and thank you for touching on it and recognizing the power of the unstuck, because sometimes it almost feels a bit cliched. So I appreciate you saying that. Jill, let's jump for a moment to something that you spoke about. This is your LinkedIn, and and there you are with a lollipop, talking about
popsicle. It's a popsicle.
And you spoke about something that struck me here. Is you spoke about being 0% strong. We talk about 100% strong, and you were 0% strong. 2 things struck me. One is your vulnerability, open and honest, and the other one is actually being very clear about the fact that you had a team in place. And and when the proverbial SH1T hits the fan, that's when you kind of know whether you've built something that is certainly built to last, when you've built a legacy, because your people can step in, step up, and take over. I would love for you to talk a little bit about that aspect, the people aspect, especially in the fact that so many of us struggle to let go. So many of us struggle to trust, to delegate. But when, as I said, that SH1T hits the fan, that's ultimately your moment of reckoning. So maybe talk a little bit about that, if you will.
Sure. It's you we've heard this quote before. Let's not let a good crisis go to waste.
Sure.
And I really do feel like I cheated a little bit. So this was last week. It was Sunday morning. I had been kind of tossing and turning all night long, and just knew that something with some abdomen pain, and it wasn't extreme to the part where like I'm screaming and like I can't stand it, but I just knew it was odd. It was a pain that I couldn't really put my finger on. And I knew I was due in San Diego. I was going to fly there on Tuesday night to MC the EOS conference that we have every year. It's my favorite event of the whole year. My clients were coming. We do a big event for my clients. I mean, it was just a big week. So I rolled out of bed. I'm like, I'm going to go to the emergency room to just hurry and knock this thing out, whatever this is. I got to knock this out so I can be back on. And the reason why I say I cheated with really having this opportunity to not let a crisis go to waste is because I had no choice. So we talk about letting go and delegating and elevating to our people and creating these great teams so we absolutely can fill in for each other and the show must go on. And that's really hard to do when you're at 100%, like, I'm on, I can do this. But I literally went to 0% productivity when the surgeon looked at me and he goes, your week is shot. You'll be in the hospital all week long for this. And it's and really within about 20 minutes, I texted the teams that needed to know, and within 24 hours they just filled in all of my gaps. And that doesn't happen overnight. That happens where we have a very healthy, open, honest relationship. I produce at a high level for these teams all the time. It's not like I'm taking every other week off or to not be dependable. So when I said yes, I'm going to 100%, there was no drama with it. Of course, they cared for me, and they were sending me well wishes, and that is beautiful. But they just filled in the gaps, and they stepped up. My little team that works with me here at jillyoung.com, Lindsay and Stephanie, we had a client dinner planned. And, I said, Lindsay, what do you want to do about the client dinner? And she goes, oh, the show must go on. Lindsay and Stephanie flew to San Diego and they hosted the client dinner. And that's not their role. That's not what they do, but they did it and they loved it. So surrounding yourself with right people and letting go is much easier when you have right people in the right seats. When we have an incidents like this, where I literally had to go to 0% productivity for the week, it was delightful and miraculous to watch everybody else unfold. But also, I just don't. It's still hard if you're still if you're still giving 100%, to step back and let somebody go when you could help them. But, in my case, I cheated. I literally could not help anybody.
I jotted down 3 words or phrases, which I think you said earlier, something that, you said there may be just a spin on something or just a word or a phrase. The first thing is this idea of no choice. And so often in life, we need to be pushed, or we need to have no choice in order to be able to see what we're really made of and what we're really capable of. For many, that was essentially, March of 2020, where we had to sink or swim. You spoke about cheating in a way, but of course it's cheating with a wink. But the other phrase that I loved was this idea of filling in the gaps. I think you have to know where the gaps are, or it helps to know where the gaps are, and for those gaps to not be chasms. There's a beautiful quote that I once heard from someone on the show, which is, at scale, cracks become chasms. And so I guess they're cracks, they're gaps, and they're chasms. Cracks and gaps can be filled in. Chasms, not so much.
Chasms, not so much. And chasms develop over time. Now, of course, they could develop with an earthquake too, I guess. But when I think about a chasm, it just develops over time. Like you're not taking care of it. You're not identifying those gaps and filling them, or restructuring so that you don't have a continual gap. But yeah, neglect can cause a chasm. Like, oh, we'll be fine. We don't really need to do that. That'll never happen.
I'm gonna riff on this. We'll do a little bit of jazz together, because in reading Crucial Conversations, the whole essence of time lags create those chasms. The longer the time that elapses, the more you neglect, the more likely you can create that rift that is almost, that chasm that is uncrossable.
And Joseph, I will say, I'm going to add to that too. Yes, I've seen this happen. And a lot of times those gaps or those chasms are in our own minds. They're in our own minds. Joseph, we have 800 colleagues that are EOS implementers, give or take a few. I probably don't know the exact number on every single day, but and we're across the whole world. We are global. So, and we're humans, and we have this beautiful culture where we help each other, and, we're humbly confident and we support each other, but invariably two implementers will like step on each other's toes. Like they get irritated with each other. So here's what happens in my life. One of them will call me and say, hey, this person over here, this person's being nasty or something. This doesn't happen all the time. But our approach here at EOS Worldwide is then I ask them, I say, have you had a conversation with that person? And I used to say 9 times out of 10, but now I'm going to say like 99 out of 100 times. The implementer who called me and who maybe had a grievance in the beginning, they take a step back and they're like, oh, I'm just going to call them and see if we can get on the same page. They do. And 99% of the time, it's done. It's over. It's cured. What might have looked like a tiny little crack just gets filled in. More often than not, they create a tighter bond, a tighter partnership. They love each other more after that, which is beautiful. Now, that hasn't always happened, because in the past, when I was not so smart, I'm just getting smarter every day, you guys. I thought that was my job. Like if 2 implementers were irritated with each other, I'd get in the middle of it and I'd try to make a judgment call, and you shouldn't do that, and you should do. And what happened? It ballooned, it flowered, it blossomed, and it becomes these big mountains where, oh my goodness, I like to call it taking care of the issue in a nice, clean way. If I can back out of it and they can heal it, oh my gosh. And you got to do it quickly, because that time, if it rolls around in someone's mind for months and months and months, oh, it's just huge when we make up all of these stories about something that just isn't true most of the time. So I believe you.
For people that are watching, especially our colleagues, fellow coaches, one of the things when we talk about EOS tools is we say that they're simple yet powerful. They've been around for 100 years, and guess what? They're going to be around for 1,000 years in the future. There's no silver bullet. There's no magic wand. And what I take away from what you're saying, you're like, wait a second, talk about youngisms. Jill's saying, have a conversation. And you're like, wait a second, actually talk to someone? What magic, what dark magic are you practicing, oh sprite of the forest?
Like, that's it. That's just have a conversation.
There it is. There you are. You are the sprite of the forest. Now you want to know why I asked about 3 fun facts about you. How's that for a segue? Let me tell you. This is not a check-in. Apparently your primary residence is the forest, Jill.
This is so funny. You asked for 3 unique things about me, all right? Now, I don't know that you will have another guest ever who will say my primary residence is the forest. Okay, do you want to hear the story? It's kind of funny.
I do.
All right. So I have a short attention span, especially when things are being talked about that just are not relevant to me. And maybe I'm just a normal human. Conservation of my brain power. So I was in this very super serious meeting with 50 or 60 other people, and the leader was talking about how do you calculate your net worth. And I'm like, well, okay, so I'm starting to get a little snore fest because that's not my primary thing that I'm thinking about. And there were a couple of people in the room who were arguing, discussing, and debating very lively about whether or not you should add the value of your primary residence into your net worth. And I just totally checked out, because that's I'm just so far from what I'm curious about. And this thought came to me that my primary residence is the forest. And I just giggled to myself, because I live in the middle. I live in a little suburb, but I live in this beautiful spot in the suburb that is just surrounded by forest. Now, of course, we've got grocery stores and all of this. And I love to rent. I don't want to own any real estate. It's irritating to me. And I rent this beautiful apartment inside the forest. So I just said, you know what? My primary residence is the forest. But because I have human needs, I just lease an apartment from the forest.
I love it.
So
And
I love the forest. That's my little enchanted forest is my primary residence. But I need to stay warm and cool, and I need a refrigerator for my food. So I live in this beautiful apartment.
and the beautiful thing about it, first of all, I mean, the value of that primary residence is priceless. But I imagine that when you are performing with your rock band, your neighbors are not going to complain. So you apparently used to be a lead singer in a rock band.
That is true. That is also true. That is hilarious. I love that picture so much. I need a copy of that. That is
it
so
is
fun.
now yours.
Yes, thank you. I've let's see, for probably 5 years, and I would say it was maybe ages 35 to 40. I was just in a fun community band. All of us happened to go to church together, so we probably didn't look like what was on the picture. It was a little more benign than that. But I loved this. I've always been musical. I'm a singer, so I was the lead singer in the band. I can't sing and play instruments at the same time. So every once in a while, they would put a bass guitar in my hand and say, here it is, here's the line. Or I would sit on the cajon and kind of try to beat or, shake the tambourine. But I love that. We would perform a couple of times a month, and it was really fun, really, really fun.
So I'm going to bring this home now, at least these 3 fun facts, because my earlier quote was about Joseph, who was able to interpret dreams, some of which came true. And apparently, now this is an unbelievable quality. Your dreams come true. My dream came true that you came on the show. But talk a little bit about the dreaming in the forest, and what are the dreams that have come true?
Oh, okay. Oh my goodness. This is hilarious. I did not know you were going to go so far into my 3 uniques, but this is the most fun I've had on a podcast, I think, in a long time talking about this. So my dreams come true. I'm a very vivid dreamer. And I'm talking while I'm asleep, I like to dream and imagine too, but while I'm asleep, I have very vivid dreams. I have lucid dreams, so I know I'm dreaming and I can make stuff happen in my dreams, which is really fun. It feels like I wake up and I feel like I've been on an adventure all night long. So that's really cool. But in the last 6 months, I've also invested in a dream coach. He's wonderful. He's a Jungian psychologist, and I'll describe my dream to him, and he doesn't interpret my dreams. He asks me questions. And so they come along, and I found such rich treasure trove for the hero's journey, treasures behind those dragons that are sometimes in my dreams. And I've been able, when I say my dreams come true, I've been able to look at those dreams, find insight from them, and then make stuff happen in my life. So
That's so interesting.
I just really value my dreams and this coach of mine. Yeah, yeah. Isn't that cool? So, my
Well,
dreams come true. Maybe on the surface it might look like, well, oh, whoa, what do
Well,
you
we're
have?
not going to go into interpretations
Awesome.
of dreams, but Joel, you did talk about three uniques, and one of the things that I really have been asking everyone is, what kind of a coach are you? What truly are your three uniques as a coach, as a head coach?
Hmm. So the first one I would say, so number one, like my role as a head coach feels a lot different than when I am in the act of when I'm actively in a coaching container with a client.
And let's go with that. Let's go with you as
So
a coach.
I'll go over there. Um, the first one is just I have this ability, and it was a natural talent, and then I've added skills and some approaches and algorithms and preparation to just be present, to be present. And it's that space that is really co-created with the clients of I'm taking my energy and I'm wrapping it around them. So I'm creating the safety, but I'm creating a space for them to be present with themselves and their thoughts and their ideas. And so I would say the first one really will probably boil down to just being present. The second one is I see possibility in all things. And it's probably that experimentation mindset that we talked about earlier. I see possibility in all things. So whereas they will come into us, after people are running on EOS, they see us about every 90 days. And I can see and sense what they're coming into the room holding on to, false stories or misinterpreted stories, and they can't maybe see the gold that's in their stories, but I can. So I like to highlight those possibilities for them. And then when I can highlight those, they see it, they catch on, they get unstuck, if you would say, and then they fly. And then they fly. And then the last one is just I'm really fun. I'm just really fun. And at the surface, it might feel like it's like just kind of like a throwaway. It's like, oh yeah, and Jill's fun. But there's a lot of work. There's a lot of really great insights and ahas that we can have in the room with our clients, Joseph, when we add some lightheartedness to it. It can be lighthearted. We don't need to take ourselves so serious. One of my most favorite coaches, Steve Chandler, he would always share, we take our work seriously, but we don't take ourselves so seriously. And to just add that lightheartedness in the room, I think that would probably be my third unique as a coach.
Wow, I love it. And I came across Steve Chandler. I'm trying to see if I can even find it as I'm running through all of my 10,000 tabs that are open. But if I find it, I'll be able to share it on air. But he spoke about this idea of asking for help. I think it was shared at our most recent QC, and it really, really connected with me on the most personal level imaginable. So I am shocked that you would say one of your three uniques is fun, because nobody would interpret that in meeting you. That is absolutely, I'm blown away. But so I have exactly. So I've come up with these are the three P's of Joel Young, which is present, possible or potential, and fun. Spelled PH.
Because I love alliterations. That's great.
Those are the three P's. The three P's of
I
Joel
love
Young.
it. Oh, thank you. Wow, you're so creative on the fly. How fun would that be to be Joseph Jaffe?
I mean, it would be honestly the title of this presentation to the students is called "The Curious Case of Joseph Jaffe," like Benjamin Button.
Like Benjamin Button.
Yeah. Except, and truly, I am getting more immature as I grow. So there's definitely something going on.
Me
It's hard
too.
to believe I'm 73 years old, and yet I
It's
look like
hard
this.
to believe. It's hard to believe. When I'm out with my boys, I've got 3 older boys, 27, 21, and 18 tomorrow. Isn't that
Happy
fun?
birthday.
This is my last day of having a minor as a parent. Like, that's pretty cool. I'm pretty excited for that. But when I'm out with them, like we have a ton of fun, and every once in a while, it's the oldest. He'll go, "Mom, who's the adult here?" And I'll say, "Not it. Not it. I don't want to be the adult. I want to grow down. I've already done growing up. Now I'm growing down."
All right, damn you, Joel Young. You've forced me now, because both Joel and I showed our show notes before that we have none. I have 2 follow-up questions for you based on that share, which is, first question, in no particular order: why is it that young people today are so damn serious, and yet it's the old people that are fun? What's going on? The fact that our kids say to us, "Why are you goofing off? Why? Who's the adult here?" Is that happening, or is that not happening? Am I imagining it, that people
Yeah,
are so serious?
so what I'm interpreting, and I think this happens with every generation, as we move into our stage of life where we now see things differently. We're like, why are the young people so serious? But if I think really embody how I was acting and feeling and thinking when I was 28, when I was Brandon's age, I was acting really serious too. So I think it's a cycle of life that we go through, and some psychologists will tell me if I'm right or wrong, or there's a whole bunch of in between of the younger people. They have to develop their ego. They have to develop their decision making abilities and their discernments, and they probably need to judge people for a while, and do all those things that you and I are now letting go of those things.
Mm.
But I think it's just a cycle. It's the cycle. So I try to stay present with my boys, and I'm not trying to get them to live in my stage of life. I share stories of how I feel about my stage of life, but I'm supporting them in their stage of life. Their spirits and bodies and minds know what they need to do to develop. So I just like to celebrate every age.
I love that. I love
think-
that, and that's a 4th P, which is profound, and you get the air horn. It's true, right? So here was my second question, and then what we're going to do is, you've written so much, another P, profound, coaching, ideas, insights, best practices. I've found just 4 that I really love, and I'm going to ask you, like in 60, give us like a lightning round take on each one, and I'm going to recommend to people that you go and spend as much time as you possibly can reading some of these articles. She's such an OG that her LinkedIn profile is EOS coach. You know what I mean? It's like, it's like Jill.com. It's the equivalent. So go and read some of those. Jill, can you teach fun? People want to be more fun or funnier, or is that something that can be taught, or,
so it's
just
not
people
it's
want to
not
be
a
like you?
So it's not in my interpretation, it's not a teaching, it's an invitation. So one of my core coaching principles is I invite you to unfold. I invite you to discover. I invite you to try. I don't tell, but I make the invitation for people to be fun. And then this is how I do it. When they see a little spark, when they're like, "Oh, I like this toy," I'll say, "Take it home." So I don't know if I'm teaching fun, but I'm inviting them to unfold to their fun side. How about that?
So my call to action would do, if you'd like to take Jill Young home with you, then well, we'll do your calls to action at the end. Jill, here are the 4 or 5 articles that I found. And we have about 5 minutes left. By the way, can I just come out and say, please come back anytime you want? Let me just give you the keys to the door, because
so much fun to be back. I've had the time of my life.
We did, it's the time you will never get back, which is the flip side of it. In fact, let me just say, after the 3 F's And peas, sorry, that's another one. Please go ahead and send your complaints to joseph.jaffe@eosworldwide.com. I'm going to hear from the head coach. Don't ever do that again. Jill, here are the articles I found, and this idea of don't rescue, it prohibits thinking. So maybe if you wouldn't mind, spend 30 to 60 seconds on each topic on this idea of why is it important not to rescue?
Right. When someone is in a situation where they feel they need rescued because they don't have the skills or ability or courage to do something, the one thing they want from you as the boss or the coach or the leader is to just take them out of their pain. But if you will just sit with them in the pain and be silent and just ask them a curious question, what do you think you could do next? What it does is it's a pattern interrupt from how they've lived their life up until now, and it interrupts their thinking, and they have to start, I like to call it, they start engaging their brain cells. So it helps them think when you don't rescue. There's a little bit.
Love it. And certainly, I mean, I'm hearing that as a parent, let alone a coach.
There's lots of stories about my parenting, how I've learned this from parenting in my books. So my kids know that their lives are on full display for the world.
Reflect regularly. Why is it? I mean, we discussed the idea of clarity breaks. Why is it so important to reflect regularly?
There's one of my quotes, and it's actually my quote. Like I quote other people, but it's my quote. I came up with it. It was awesome. It's experience without reflection will be forgotten. So when you reflect on your experience, you're going to grab all of those experiences that were good, bad, painful, pleasurable, and then you're going to seal them in your brain. If you don't reflect on them, your brain just treats it like that experience just gets to go in the trash can because it's not very valuable. So just spending the time reflecting, even if it's on the way home from work or just after you've had a conversation. What really worked right there? How did I feel during that conversation? You're just asking yourself, what were the most important parts of that? And then you gather all these beautiful nuggets and experience, and you get to take those with you. You take the learnings with you. So a habit of reflecting regularly makes all of those experiences, I like to call it makes them sticky.
Sticky experiences. I even think about the 90-day world that we talk about and even when we reflect on the quarter, it's just so important to look back and say, this is what went right. This is what didn't go right. This is what might have been different. We give ourselves grace to be able to accept and just assimilate the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then close the book and move on.
And then you move on. You take those good, take the things that were valuable with you, but you can leave everything else.
Okay, I've got one more for you, which is just this idea of I love this. You talk about the coaching magic matrix, because I love matrices. I used to get paid by the matrix. There's deficit and possibility, short-term and long-term, the buddy approach, the cheerleader approach, the professor approach, and the coach approach. Talk a little bit about the matrix.
Sure. It's a real challenge, which is going to be fun to talk about it in, 30 to 60 seconds, because there's a lot of meat right there. But really where it came from is my own observation of how I was coaching different teams. And when I thought about when am I the most useful for these teams, I realized that I had some certain mindsets and behaviors that were going on. One of them was that I had, when I was really in this coach approach, I was really thinking and feeling the best for them long term, which means I didn't really kind of fall into the stories they were telling me or like, oh, just this is going to be really painful short term. Like, yes, I hear that, but think about the long term. So whereas I would help them think long term and I had a long term approach for them, I was a more effective coach for them. But then also in that deficit and possibility scale as well, when I would go into a coaching situation and I went in with the mental state of, ooh, this is a really hard team. they're just really not getting this, or these guys are really stubborn, or these guys are really stuck in their ways. That deficit, I just didn't come out as useful as I wanted to. But when I had that possibility mindset, which is one of my 3 uniques as a coach, when I took more of that approach of there's so much possibility here, potential, they're making so much progress, even if it's slower than I thought, but I really kept that possibility focus. When I did both of those things, long-term and possibility thinking, I just realized that I was just my best version of myself, which in turn was very, very useful for my teams. So there's some fun stories with the other approaches too. But
her name is Jill Young.
That's how I found it.
Her name is Jill Young. You can find her on jillyoung.com. You can find out how to work with her, how to interact with her. We didn't even have a chance to talk about the creative process of her art, but hopefully she will come back and we will do more. We will discuss more youngisms as well. They will keep you young, and they will ensure, like Benjamin Button, that you are a curious case, that you are curious in life, that you are fun, PHUN, and ultimately get to where you want to get to. Love the journey, live the journey, get what you want from your business. Please buy the Advantage series, the Courage Advantage, the Earning Advantage, and the Thinking Advantage at jillyoung.com/books. Find out more about Jill at jillyoung.com. You can sign up for her workshops there as well. Connect with her on LinkedIn at EOS Coach, because she is the OG of OGs. And if you want to experience maybe a slightly different Jill, in fact, I'm going to correct myself as well. There is only one Jill Young, and she is fun. And you can find out more, a little bit more, and interact with her on a different level at Instagram. So, Jill, I'm sure people didn't even realize there were technical difficulties at all. Of course, if they're still watching at this point, but we sailed through them. It really was a pleasure. And, as I said, please come back anytime, and let's just continue the conversation and the fun fest.
I would absolutely love to come back. This is just so much fun, Joseph. The way you interview and ask your follow-up questions and go really deep with your audience. I just, again, I would like to be a fly on the wall where you're doing all kinds of fun activities too, because what a fun journey that would be. Hey, have fun tonight with those college students. That's going to be really fun. I'd love to hear how that went, how that goes.
You know what? I'm probably going to end that session with the same thing that I did with you, which is send complaints to joseph.jaffe@eosworldwide.com. Take care, everyone. See you all very soon. Bye-bye.
We're the ones who dare to dream. We won't let anyone hold us back. We'll take the road, let's travel by and build our empire piece by piece. We've got our dreams and we've got a plan. We're not afraid to take a stand. We'll face the risks and embrace the fear, cause we know that success is near. There will be times when we'll fall down, but we'll get up and turn it around. We're entrepreneurs, we're not afraid to lose. We'll keep moving forward, we got nothing to prove.